Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon, friends and guests. We're so excited to have everyone here for what is designed to be an intimate conversation. And we know that we will welcome in a few people as we go. And so appreciate you kind of sitting in this untraditional setup for us. My name is Beth Bovis, and I'm the head of global sustainability at Kearney, which is a global management consulting firm. We were the very first consulting firm to do a carbon neutral pledge and become carbon neutral. How passe is that in 2006? And we're also the first to have our science-based targets approved, and we are on track to be at net zero for 2030. So we're very excited about that, and it means that we're really excited to be here at COP to have this conversation about public, private, and philanthropic partnerships, or PPPPs, or I think I might say 4Ps, so that it's a little bit easier for everyone to enjoy. This is a newish model of collective action that really is necessary to solve some of the challenges that we have in the climate crisis, and I'm excited to be talking about it with all of you today. So I'm joined by my colleague, Hani Tomai, who is not only my fellow partner, but also the head of sustainability for Middle East and Africa for our firm. And he's going to help co-host with me this conversation where we talk about this. I'm going to do some context setting for us, things that probably everybody sitting here knows, but I'm going to say them out loud. First, right now, as we sit here, never before in the history have we had so much resource, so much data, so much technology that we could deploy to solving the climate crisis. Yet we are not doing so. The gap between the commitments that were submitted, if they were even submitted, and what is happening on the ground still persists. And if in some cases even is growing. And that means we need to find ways to close the gap. This is the COP of implementation. That means we need to be getting going. Financing is fragmented. After all of these years of pilots, this is my COP 30 mantra: no more pilots. We need to do things at scale. We need to be moving with pace. And part of how we're going to do that is not because there hasn't been a coalition of the willing, but we haven't had the mechanisms to cut across the different sectors, the public sector, the private sector, and the philanthropic sector. Typically, we get two of those Ps together, and we feel really good about ourselves, but we're going to talk here about where and when getting all three together will make the difference for us. So we're going to try to be practical here, ask you to tell your stories, share some examples of what's happening, and we're going to go through a couple of conversations about where, how, when, and how do we maintain, measure, and create accountability across it. So to get us started, everybody come on in the circle. To get us started, I'm going to turn to Hani, who's going to get us started with this first one of where and when should we use this structure.
Thank you, Beth, and very nice to be here. Muito prazer. Eu posso falar pouco português, but we will do this in English. So this is not to surprise everybody.
Just for me.
And look, the concept of the 4Ps is not new. So we have always had the philanthropies coming into play when the PPPs could not make it, right? So if we look at the healthcare sector, for example, think of the HIV, tuberculosis, malaria. If you look at how many lives have been saved since 2002 and how much actually percentage of improvement we went, like 63% less mortality, this didn't just happen. This happened through a 4P model where you had the vaccination from one place, you had the policy making, but also you had the philanthropies and the NGOs coming into play. Think also of the renewable model and the clean energy. You have around 7.8 billion utilized and so many countries that received access to clean energy because of such movements. So my first question to you would be, where do you see the 4Ps can actually play a big role? And where can they play a bigger role than the typical public-private partnership? So where do you see that philanthropies could make a big difference? So I don't know, maybe from the crowd, if you have some good examples, some ideas that you want to bring to us.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Monique. Oh, it's too loud, huh? I lead the Brazil program for RARE. We work in the Amazon coast, where the Amazon meets the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. And bringing to life your question, the seed money for the private sector to trigger the work. For instance, we are monitoring with sensors, oceanographic and meteorological aspects. And then we pilot with the private sector. And the idea is to scale and hand over to the government. Sometimes the government doesn't have the technology, doesn't have the people, but they would like a solution in scale. So we are piloting in the Amazon coast, nearby at Pará State. And we have 2 points of measurement. And the idea is the Secretary of Environment get this and we transition to them. So sometimes they don't have the technology or the people. And as NGOs, we are making the bridge between the private capital and the needs of the government to scale type of solution, anchor in data and science. So this is one example that I'm happy to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Oh, wait.
I know.
I also work for
this
Rare,
side
so I
goes
will
with
share.
that mic.
Yeah. Here we have to switch mics because we're learning to be audio-visual professionals as well as moderators here. So this mic stays on this side, this one over there, but please do add. But here, Valentin, right here. And as people come in, come join the circle. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'm Tiziana. I'm from northeast of Brazil. And I'm also from ICE. And they decided to create a coalition. And as a philanthropist, when I knew about the coalition for impact, I said, oh my goodness, it's all I want to do. Because I am trying to do my philanthropy as a funnel, like this part, my money, but opens for more money. Public policy or investment, like blended finance, because we know that philanthropy is not going to solve all the problems, so we need to call different monies. And as one of the co-founders of Coalition for the Impact, we are working in 6 cities in Brazil. We are 12 partners that is doing this, companies and NGOs together, and in 8 dimensions. So public, government, cities and states, and federal also, universities, a lot of companies, private sectors. So we put the problem in the middle, and we share what can you do, I do. Each one has different ways to help, to contribute, and then we solve the problem. At that case, we are helping a social business, social entrepreneurs, to get more maturity in the city, to work with all this, the sectors, to become more maturity. When coalitions stop, the city can do it by themselves. So I can talk about Fortaleza, my city. And when we started, it was a few people talking about it, one university, maybe, you know. And now we have a lot of university. We have the public policy together. We did the Impacto is with governor federal, but we did it with state also, and now we are working with the city. So we want to scale solutions for help social business. We are doing editals with money from banks, public banks, and companies and NGOs to help a lot of social business, social entrepreneurs. So I always say that the problems are so complex, but we need systemic solutions. And we only have systemic solutions if we put everyone around the table, and what you can do is different what I can do, but it's, we can complete ourselves. So that's why I am always looking for this. I am participating in another 3 coalitions like this, and I can see the power of this. I decided to do all in collaboration. I'm not going to do anything alone anymore. Can be easy, but it's not so powerful. So
that's the only way to do it. So well done, actually. Maybe just one follow-up also on that section is how can we look at the role of the philanthropies beyond securing the grants, right? So of course, having the philanthropy makes the case easier to bring the money in, but beyond the money part, where do you see that the philanthropies could actually contribute the most?
So my full-time job is obviously being a partner of these nice gentlemen, but I'm myself, I'm involved in several NGOs, and with RARE, as we said, the Instituto Desiderata and the healthcare, public healthcare system. And when I see the donors, they look at the philanthropy and they want to make sure that their money goes to the forefront, that their money is going to the fishermen, to the women that make the savings club, right? But the truth of the matter is that the philanthropic organizations, they have leadership groups, they have a core group that need to be there for year in, year after out. I mean, somebody's paying for the salaries of these people. And that's, I think, a very important, a very, very normal thing, but very important view that rather than us having, you know, these philanthropies that go oops and then they go down again, and then they, if that person leaves the organization, the effort goes down. So creating this long-term engagement and being able to give money that is not attached to the actual outcome of the philanthropy is your funnel theory. So that's what I've observed, right? In terms of the impact coalition investment, is what we saw is like a big country like Brazil, and there's many other big countries. A lot of things happen in the capitals, right? I mean, in New York and Los Angeles, in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, or in Paris, there the social entrepreneur have access to funds. But the good ideas and the great entrepreneurs are not all in these big cities. The smartest solution sometimes is out there. And I think that's the beauty of this initiative where Tiziana, you guys are involved. I think it's an example. We also created here in Belém an organization. We bring together what we call backbone organizations. So you need like a university, you need a group that advises on matters of the law and matters of accounting. You bring together the accelerators, you know, the cubos that obviously exist in São Paulo and Rio, but they don't exist in Belém or didn't exist in Fortaleza, right? So we help to form these social structures, and then the magic starts happening. So to give you a final answer, I think here in this coalition, the philanthropists put the upfront money, and they said, okay, we will put, it was a big sum, it was 28 million reais or so. 34, okay, that's the latest, so 34 million reais for no strings attached money. And with that, we were able to leverage, I don't know the latest number, but it's a factor of 10 of investment in very promising, high impact startups and scale-ups.
Thank you. I want to continue to evolve the conversation a little bit here as we talk about, when we think about and talk about philanthropy, sometimes we default to the giving part and not necessarily the returns part. And one of the powers of public-private philanthropic partnerships is the blend of capital that can come together for impact. And in a couple examples that are out there, you know, in the some of the around the room know in the world of SAF, where it took the combination of signals from corporate public capital commitments, but then also some philanthropic and governmental commitments to get to the scale that was needed in order to amplify. And then you see some funds, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet put forth, you know, $500 million and returned $7.8 billion. I just look at my notes, make sure I had that number right, in terms of the investments that they were making in climate and climate-related futures. So there is an altruistic element of this, but there is a purely, there is a good business and financial element of this as well. And I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about what is that blend of patient and short-term capital, grants and loans that seems to be working out there that you see as working or you wish existed more. Does someone want to jump in?
Maybe I can talk a little bit about that. We have a lot of new examples here, especially in Brazil. I'm Dario from Brazil. We run a private equity company, and one of our investments, it's a company called Woodbine, and it produces mass timber. So we harvest wood that we plant, pine, and then we process this wood, and we can substitute concrete in those structures using timber, right? So you capture the carbon on the field and you stock in cities. That's our business. But the difficulty in implementing one of this business in Brazil or all over the world is the acceptance from the market for a new structure. We are here in COP, and you don't see wood anywhere. We are seeing the structures made of steel in COP in Brazil. So we had to build a incentive for our clients to change from steel, from concrete to wood. So one of the things we create, it's this blended finance fund, which we have the normal, regular capital from the financial market, mixture with philanthropic capital. So you will give to our clients at least a better interest rates when he gets the loan to make his building, and sometimes a commercial differentiation on the way we're giving the money to them than what would be for a regular big bank for doing that. So we're combining those blended finance with the regular capital, and of course using who is those philanthropic. It's maybe all the philanthropic world that we know, but also the resources from the government that are going to transition the economy. So it's one of the examples we are dealing with.
Oh, that's a great example, and kudos to you for creating that opportunity, because I think the very often getting the blended instruments together is not it's not an easy task. So you said it in 2 minutes, but it probably took quite a bit of time to get there from that perspective. One of the other areas that you mentioned, land transition is one of the key areas where this can be very helpful. We know that transitioning land to more sustainable, either agroforest or agriculture, or back and preserving it from nature can be very profitable, but it takes anywhere from 2 to 6 years for that transition to happen, during which time the people who depend on the livelihood from that land need to have income. And that's where some patient capital, et cetera. I'm wondering if folks have seen other examples, I think land transition being one, but other examples of ones where the duration of time to get to the next more profitable model is a perfect setup for this.
My example is not on land transition, but
Yeah.
Well, not land transition, but so do you want to do yours first, or?
You
Okay.
can, yeah,
So
you can go anywhere.
Caleb McLennan, the president of Rare Global, and so supporting the work here in Brazil. But regarding that transition period you're talking about on land, we have a similar process in the oceans, where if you're going fisheries reform, coastal restoration, you just have a period where there's no return while the ecology is returning for jobs. So we have piloted actually the first ever coastal small-scale fisheries impact bond, where we have private sector capital coming in, for-profit seeking capital coming in to pay coastal communities in Indonesia to improve their marine resources. It's going to take 2 or 3 years, It's a 5-year bond. And every year there's 8 KPIs. If the communities hit those KPIs, we have outcome payers paying them back. And getting to the role of philanthropy, for this first round, philanthropy is the outcome buyer. So they only pay if the community performs, they pay back those investors. Round 2, which we're nearly mobilized, round 1 was less than 10 million. Round 2 is going to be about 100 million across Indonesia and Philippines, hopefully soon in the mangroves in Brazil. And that will be actually, the outcome buyer will be local governments and bilateral funders. So we'll have transitioned first from private for-profit seeking capital, philanthropy paying back in the first round. Second round, philanthropy is fully exiting. And it's 100% run by for-profit rent-seeking capital, and then governments and other outcome buyers that can pay. And this is all borrowed from water services, education, recidification. It's all borrowed from outside the conservation sector. So really excited. I can share through Monique with this group this model that we're piloting. So thank you. So it wasn't
Thank
land.
you.
I'm sorry.
You want to take us in another direction? Come on, please do.
Yes, my example is in healthcare. I'm Carolina Aranha. I'm a founder of Impactic. It's a consultant company focused on social and environmental impact. And I want to just share a perspective from philanthropy side, trying to understand which kind of investment should bring more impact in terms of returns. And so we had this challenge brought by Dra. Ludmila Rajar, is one of the top cardiologists in Brazil, saying, okay, now if you have a heart attack, it may take you 17 hours for you to reach the room and to get emergency assistance in São Paulo. So how can we make it reduced to 2 hours? So I need help, in order to try to set a plan and to have technology guys and management guys and try to make it, putting together the public sector, USP, Poly, and the medical school of USP as well. And so I really need help, to put everything together. So we said, from my perspective here, using the hat of Instituto Beja as a member of the committee advisor, I said, okay, this is one of the biggest, bets we can take, because we invest in this and try to settle everything and try to reduce, from 17 to 2 hours. So we're still on track to deliver it. We put together, the technology team, the management team, and USP together with the hospital, everybody talking to each other. We've developing the MVPs. We have lots of low-hanging fruits, because can you imagine in SUS in São Paulo, the way that we address how we would, allocate the emergencies. So this was key to make it happen, because otherwise, if they don't have philanthropic capital, they would never do this. So and from philanthropic perspective, it would be a super high return.
Yeah.
I would like to compliment, because the example you gave on social is quite interesting, because everyone think about PPP in this context of the environment, right? But we can think about social impact. Social impact bonds, as they were created initially, and we discussed about Ronald Cohen a few days ago. He was the person who created that concept, right? And he created out of a vision that I want to solve a problem that no one else is gonna solve for myself, which he took a very specific example of the prisoners' reinsertion in the UK 15 years ago. And he said, I'm pretty sure that if we invest a bit more money in making sure that the prisoners in the UK prisons actually get access to trainings to get a new job outside of prisons, that if we give them cultural lessons or educational trainings during their time in prison, the chances of going back to prisons after a while will drop significantly. And he took that bet and he went to the Minister of Justice of UK and said, I'm gonna bet you this. The Minister of Justice said, okay, I'm gonna take the bet, and for every percentage of drop of the reinsertion rate, I'm gonna finance a return of 7%. And what is interesting is the translation of bringing the 3 Ps together into a partnership, because what we needed is the philanthropists to give the educational trainings. We needed the public sector to finance it, the return, and we need the private sector to actually buy the bonds. And that's an amazing example that now, from the social, we replicate to the environment. So just to think about, yes, there are so many use cases, and I think to your first question, the PPPs is maybe the best model right now. When someone has an idea that is not being backed neither by the public or the private, the philanthropies are usually, most of the time, apolitical, right? So the best asset they have is to be able to bring everyone around the same table, around the concept, and make it happen.
I want to bring another example that I did with Professor Mohamed Yunus, so I need to talk about this. I met him, and it's about loans, because he created the microcredit, and his fund in Brazil helped not very early stage. And from Northeast, I was trying to invest in a small business, very small business, led by women, Black, and Indigenous, and I could not find any fund to do this. So we created one together. And as we are with TRE, investing with cause, Yunus, social business, and Somos that means we are one, the organization that I founded. And now we are also in Pará with Amazon people in a coalition here helping social entrepreneurs. And until now, we already gave loans for 32 very small social business that is helping solving problems in their communities. They don't have who to ask money. Like the bank is not looking for them, the funds is not looking for them. So they are like, yes, they need help. It's not just about money. It's also about mentoring. So we help it with mentoring. It's money and mentoring for 4 years. A very early way, easy way to get loans. And this example are bringing, it's a blended finance, so it's bringing more money. Because we use the philanthropic money to create a guarantee funds, 25%. So we call more investments. And then we use this money 10 times. Because if the entrepreneur cannot pay, we say, okay, I give you 6 months more. And then she started to pay, and I can give this money for another one. And goes back and goes. So Professor Yunus always say that we need to find ways to have this $1 or R$1 becomes 10 or 20. So that's the way that we created this coalition for give more life and give endless life for that money, you know. So.
Can I build on that?
Please do.
We have similar approach. I think that after this roundtable we can get more details. But the idea with the Mothers of Mangrove, the acronym MUM, basically we have a journey of financial literacy. So they first learn about financial literacy, and then financial service in terms of understanding loans and how to saving. So they prepare the savings club, and with their money, they invest in their own business. So last year, together, almost 1,000 women, and Mark had the opportunity to visit the Mothers of Mangrove. They together, they save 250,000 reais by their money. So there's no, there is a pathway for the capacity building for financial literacy, and combined with the entrepreneurship, they unlock new business. So yesterday we had in the Ocean's House, like some fairs market with these women from their own money. So basically we invest in capacity building and the mechanism for saving. So maybe we can figure out a way to scale that. So I love your idea. Let's talk more afterwards. Thank you.
That's perfect. Actually, this is super interesting.
Right here in the room, real live.
Absolutely. And actually, this is the purpose of getting together, right? Because we can get inspired regularly from each other's accomplishments. Now, I would like to introduce the next part of the discussion, which is related to technology and AI. We have to talk about AI everywhere, so why not also here? If we look at the OSHA's humanitarian database, and we have around 20,000 data sets included, 1.4 million users per year using that, right? Or if we talk about Microsoft AI for Good, right? So this is when we combined Microsoft with the humanitarian aspect, and we try to look at predictive analytics to see how to support crisis forecasting. We realized that AI could be embedded in the business model or in the foundation of the logic of how we can create good. So how much are you seeing that in your activities? How much are you dependent on it or utilizing it to boost your activities even further?
Serious, I am very afraid about AI.
And that's a good finding, right?
I prefer another AI, like intelligent, ancestral intelligence. So, yes. I think we need to learn more with our ancestors than the technology. Okay, but we cannot say that it's not exists. We have to work with the AI. For sure, I am very in early stage about this. I have to study more. But I have a friend that is helping Edu Lira from Gerando Falcões. Do you know that? No? A social entrepreneur in Brazil. He's very big. And now he's doing a course with 6,000 people from favelas, social leaders, social entrepreneurs, how to use AI to scale good solutions. Deco Montenegro, he has a company, an AI company, and he's trying to do this to help people that is working with favelas to scale good solutions. But I can, for be honest, I have to learn more about this. I am not using in my work as I should use. Normally, I am used ancestral intelligence with our social entrepreneurs. It's true. More.
Excellent. Any views on that before, because we can, oh, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to throw another topic on that here, which is, I think all of us are on the beginning of what's going to happen with AI, right? And it doesn't matter where you are in the beginning, right, of what's going to happen. At least it's what we all think about AI. Once we don't know what's going to happen, the model that we saw in OpenAI, which was having a foundation, was non-for-profit organization, would develop all the codes, everything related to AI, which would be open to the public, because it's something we are creating, something that we don't know what's going to be and what's going to be the impact on that. So we'll create for the world, right? That's the way OpenAI was created. There's no one shareholder, there's the whole world is as the shareholder. And 2-3 years after that, that was impossible. And they become a regular company again to make the YPO and another round of investment. And so just to throw in here a discussion of once we don't know where we're going and we're all using less than we should and we're all learning on the process, who should be the owner of the development of everything we are doing with AI, right?
So my personal view is that the philanthropy part, right, and I'm going to use technology, could be AI or just technology, right? I think if you really think about what you can do with philanthropy, as we've all discovered, is we cannot save the world, right? All the money of us together is not enough to save the world. That's the dramatic truth, right? So if you believe in that, say, okay, so what should we do? And I think the honest answer is we are the ones who are allowed to experiment, right? Because when we experiment with philanthropic capital, if we lose our money, it's sad, but we're not going to die, right? So that's kind of the magic about philanthropic capital. Now I'm trying to apply this to technology, right? So I think we have to give the organizations that we lead or where we participate the freedom to experiment with technology, experiment with AI in favelas, in healthcare, in public healthcare, in SUS, and with the mothers of monkey. And I will report back from an experiment Monique and I did. You all know Rio Bravo in São Paulo with, so there's a big, well, it's a big investment company, right? And they launched a program, it's called POPA, it's blockchain-based micro savings, okay? Little beautiful design stories, right? And I had just come back from Pará here, from Souri, visiting the Mães do Mangue, the mangroves, the mothers of mangrove. And we said, look, this is great. You know, they're saving their money in a box who can be stolen. So why don't we help them save it in on a blockchain so that they can invest, and everything is better, right? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, theory meets the reality, right? So after Monique trying to implement this micro-saving tool on a technology in Souri, in Pará, and the short answer, it doesn't work, right? So because the infrastructure, the internet is not stable enough, because they don't all have smartphones, there's specific tricks that don't work. I'm not going to go into all details, but I think that's what we should be doing. We should be trying these things, and if we fail, it's okay. We can try again. So I think that is an important part, because the other P's, every P as you go is harder for them to fail, right? The private sector, if you fail and you're a manager, you may lose your job, right? If you're the public officer, you cannot fail. Your CPF is on the line, right? You do everything you cannot. So it's every time it's harder, right? So we should be the philanthropists, should be the biggest risk takers in this game. Sorry it took me too long.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give an example, because
Yes.
on exactly this, in Portugal 15 years ago, when everyone was talking about how to learn how to code applications, so that was the AI topic of 15 years ago, there was a philanthropist based out of London, of Lisbon, that made his career in digital marketing, investment, very successful entrepreneur. And he was asking himself the question, how can I make sure that actually whatever I know in the field of technology could be used for underserved communities, and specifically for senior unemployed population in rural areas of Portugal. So very niche population, but with the highest unemployment rate. And back in time 15 years ago was when Portugal was very down in terms of economic development. And so he built something which is called Academia de Código, which is a school that he implemented in one underserved region in the north of Portugal, that actually taught 55 years old and plus how to code application. And so he developed a whole training that in 1 month you could code an application in Python and Java++ types of languages. And he did it from his philanthropist past, right? He was a serial entrepreneur, multi-millionaire. He doesn't need it, this one. And he built it, and he had a success directly. Companies like Microsoft called him, we want to hire these people. And we want to actually hire these people even before they graduate the school. And so in 15 years, I think now if we look at it, he has more than 10 schools across Portugal. The public sector came, as in the municipalities of every city in Portugal, please, we want to host this school in our city. We will give you the infrastructure. We'll give you whatever we need. So the public sector is contributing in infrastructure pro bono. And the private sector is chipping in, financing the trainings. And eventually what became a philanthropy is actually now a private sector company which is making millions. And he replicated it in Brazil, in Argentina, in Colombia, in Africa, is opening in Africa right now, and even in the Middle East. So how from serving from a single idea that started as a philanthropic idea, how can we actually generate a multi-million-dollar business? That's very interesting.
Excellent. Well, one of the things, and that one becomes very easy to measure, is thinking about measurement and accountability. And I'm going to give you a story from the US. We did some work, for all of you know, you talk about the 17 hours to 2 hours. the health disparities in the United States are embarrassing, I say, as a citizen, in terms of you can be within a couple miles of each other and have 10 years difference in life expectancy. And it's not about necessarily the availability of healthcare, it's the access to healthcare that's available. Well, a lot of public-private partnership money was floating around, but until we got, this is in Chicago, the philanthropy side came in to really say, how are we going to actually create loans that are a mix of grant and loan for business and NGO enterprises that are addressing the upstream challenges of health inequity? So not building more hospital beds, but more getting people to be healthier, giving people money so that they have access to insurance, all of those kind of things. And we looked at 4 different models and compared them. One was the ecosystem model. What happens if you invest $1 in an ecosystem that provides somebody with a job, home, a place to buy food that is healthy for themselves, like sanitation, the whole thing. What happens there? If you invest $1 there, you get nearly $15 back in terms of the impact in the community and tax dollars, income, etc. Then we said, well, what if we just did housing? What if we just gave people a place to live so that they could maintain their health? And that was, 8 times. And we're like, that's really good. And then we said, what if we just made a business that provided health insurance even to workers who typically in the US don't qualify? They work part-time, they maybe work informally, but we said, no, we're gonna have universal health care in that business. And that was 4 times and twice as impactful as giving them a job somewhere else, even if that job paid more somewhere else. So we can, and we know we can measure how these models can come together, how they outperform traditional models. But we're not necessarily celebrating these KPIs. Sometimes they're very hard. We need this technology in order to do them. Sometimes they're hard to do. But I'd love to hear from this group, what are the metrics you're using? Because sometimes we know here what is right. We're willing to take more risk. But if we want to scale, we need to have a little bit more than that to get the people who are risk averse to come on the journey with us. So I'm interested in hearing what people are doing. What impact metrics do you find helpful to building that momentum?
About measure is, we have 2 challenges. One is the way to do. It's not so easy to do. And another one is the cost. Sometimes it's so expensive to do this. So sometimes it's better use the money to get more impact than measure the impact. But I know that we have to measure. In the other point, what I'm trying to do is find we say ponto de acupuntura, acupuncture point, tipping point. Tipping point? No. No. Yes. Do you understand what I say? Acupuncture, yes, depression point. Because we're not going to solve all the body, but we can find points that if we change, we solve all the body. So housing is one of them. I am also starting a social business for housing, because when you see what can happen with the family when she has dignity in their house, in health, in social, in mental health, and with the kids, education and everything. So this is one of the points that we have to scale a lot. And in Brazil, we have a program that say Minha Casa, Minha Vida. I don't know if you know. My House, My Life. Okay. Solve a lot of problems, but not all. I think it's the biggest one in Brazil, and very good. It's better than don't have. But I see a lot of problems. So I am trying to do another one to solve the problems that I see. Because even if you have a house, but your house is so far away from your job, it's a lot of people living together without quality, So I am using more time and money to find this point than for measure all the impact,
That's a fair point. Yep. Mark, can you?
Hello, my name is Carlos. Sorry for being late. I'm here with Monique, and I was here with Caleb. I work for Rare. And I want to kind of go back to the previous question and connect it to this one. So we're moving a lot into outcome-based financing for conservation. And one of the most expensive things to do is to measure your impact, because that will trigger the payment, right? So in Indonesia, for instance, the OBF we have, we committed to benthic coverage, biomass, all of these kind of things. So you actually have to go underwater and spend your time there counting fish or measuring biomass. That's expensive and takes time. If you want to move to terrestrial landscapes, it's even more expensive, right? You have drones, you can do different kind of things. So hence AI. So there is this organization in the US called American Bird Conservancy, and they had developed the bird index. And they use AI, tiny little microphones in large landscapes. And through AI, they are able to identify the species that had come back to the ecosystem because of conservation efforts. That's impact, right? But it's long-term, low-cost public monitoring system that will trigger payments for longer, cheaper than the ones you can do when you have to actually count the birds and how many birds for butterflies and jaguars and whatnot. So they actually, by using AI, and starting with you, they started with philanthropy, right? The philanthropy gave them the money to find out what's the best way to build this index. They built it, and now they can put it into very highly financial instruments such as OBF to say biodiversity is improving or not, hence trigger the payments. So I think the collaboration is an ongoing collaboration, and for us to measure impact, it has to be longer term, public data available, so both investors and outcome payers will have the information real time. So for us, it allows us to scale at a cheaper way, because otherwise you'll have to pay for so many people counting, jaguars, toucans, whatever, ant eaters that come back to the ecosystem. So this is for us a way forward to scale up OBFs, because otherwise it will be very expensive.
It's a great example in blending both outcomes and technology across there.
Maybe one example from the Red Sea area in my part of the world. So there was a very big debate of the Minister of Environment versus the Minister of Tourism. Because if you take the Red Sea, it's such a beautiful place. And the question is, do I build a golf course, yes or not? I know I will impact the coral reefs, but the golf course is going to bring such a big economical value that I cannot say no to it, right? Do I bring in all the marinas and I attract all the boats to the Red Sea, or I prevent that in order to also safeguard the marine life? Do I build mangroves or not, right? Do I take out the lake and put a hotel in it or not, right? So there were always those debates, and any person with the industrial era in mind will always come to the conclusion, let's build the hotel. So one of the exercises we've done, we've actually transformed the natural capital into an actual dollar sign. So a dolphin, what does a dolphin mean? If you say, well, a dolphin is great and very nice to look at and attract tourism, that's one thing. But if I tell the minister that a dolphin is equivalent of $125,000 a year, then they say, okay, how many dolphins do I have? and then let's compare. What is the return of a hotel versus the return of the environmental capital? Now, without AI, we cannot do that. Without philanthropies, we cannot do that. And if we don't change our mindset, we will never do that, right? So that's also one of the examples where we have to give nature its fair value. And its fair value, it's okay if we want to talk the same language as businesses, but we have to do it, because then everybody can listen. Yeah? So to conclude.
All right, I think we, let's conclude up. You want to summarize, honey?
In conclusion, first I want to say thank you, because this was very inspiring. And hearing the stories of Brazil, of the Amazon, of the million philanthropies that you've pushed, and the pressure points that you're addressing, this is quite inspiring. There are some keywords that I will remember for a long time, like the ancestor intelligence versus artificial one.
Yeah, that's
sure.
the winner. I'm
going to quote you on that if you allow me. I would say I really love the point of philanthropies are the ones who could take the risk because everybody else could not afford it. The blended funding to encourage bio-based construction material, this is something we talked about a few days ago and now you bring it up. It's quite impressive. And I would say at the end, one quote is, of course we can do it alone, but doing it together is much, much nicer and much more impactful. So thank you so much for today and it was great having you.
All right, thank you.